They didn't even look me in the eye. Not once. Not when I mopped around their shoes, not when I held the elevator door, not even when I said good morning every single day. To them, I was just the janitor. But what they didn't know was that the building they worked in, the company they bragged about, the one they said ran like a well-oiled machine. Yeah, that was mine. My name is Marcus Hale, and I didn't always wear coveralls to work. Once upon a time I wore Armani. I signed 7-figure contracts. People flew cross-country just to shake my hand. But after a betrayal that nearly ruined my life, I needed to disappear and observe from the bottom. So I took the lowest job available at the very company I founded, under a different name. No one recognized me. That was the plan. Let me take you back, not to the fall, but to just before the ground gave way. 3 years ago, I was CEO of Helix Core Solutions, a mid-sized data security firm with Fortune 500 clients. We'd grown fast, too fast maybe, but I believed in what we built. I had a co-founder, Daniel Shore, Harvard guy, slick talker, loved attention. I handled the back end, product design, team development, and infrastructure. He handled the front, investors, interviews, glad-handing. People thought he was the brains. But that was fine. I never cared who got the spotlight. Until it started with a board meeting. I walked in 5 minutes early, like always. Daniel was already there, in my seat. Everyone laughed like it was normal. I sat across from him. And then came the bomb. "We've been discussing direction," Daniel said, fake smile plastered on. "And we think Helix needs new leadership for its next chapter." I blinked. "New leadership?" He nodded. "The board agrees. It's nothing personal. You're great at startup energy, Marcus, but we're pivoting now. Institutional clients. Bigger deals. We need someone with Polish. Polish. Not integrity, not loyalty, just polish. I was out, just like that. No lawsuit, no scandal. They paid me out in silence money. But what they didn't realize was that they couldn't take what I actually built. The core code, the key patents, the staff loyalty, especially from the people they never noticed. That's how I found myself 3 months later, scrubbing floors in the very building that once had my name on its door. Helix had expanded. New offices, new faces, and I was invisible. They thought Marcus Hale had retired. But no, Marcus Hale was watching. There was one person who treated me like a human being. Her name was Talia, junior HR associate, maybe 24. Big glasses, quiet voice. "Good evening, Mr. Hale," she'd say before quickly correcting herself. "Sorry, I mean, Martin, you just look like someone I read about once." I'd smile and keep mopping. Rick, the new VP of operations, though, he'd drop coffee cups on the floor and watch me clean them up without saying a word. Madeline, the head of finance, she once said, loud enough for me to hear, "If people like him can walk these halls, we need better security." But I kept quiet, because some lessons need time, and I was building something else, in the shadows, something that would make them all stop and listen. It didn't happen all at once. You'd think betrayal would come with fanfare, a slammed door, a legal threat, a press release, but no. Mine came in whispers, in missing emails and slowly locked doors. After I was pushed out, I stayed away. I traveled, took meetings, watched from a distance. But the more I watched, the more I saw it crumble. Helix was bleeding, not money, not yet, but soul. The soul we'd built into it. Daniel brought in a new leadership team. They were all image, no spine. They smiled for investor calls, but they didn't understand the product. They cut costs in R&D. They fired people who questioned them. They lied to clients, my clients. And when bugs came up, they blamed the old system. They blamed me. One day I got a call. It was Logan, my old DevOps guy. Quiet genius. Never liked the spotlight. "Marcus, sorry, Martin," he said. "I shouldn't be calling, but they're about to break everything." I asked him what he meant. "They're prepping a firmware update that hasn't passed even basic pen testing. If this goes live, a dozen enterprise accounts will be exposed." I clenched the phone tighter. "And Daniel?" "He signed off already. Told us to push it through. Said downtime wasn't acceptable this quarter." That's when I realized this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about damage. They weren't just ruining me. They were gambling with data that could destroy lives. Helix protected hospitals, school systems, small banks that couldn't afford breaches. This wasn't corporate drama. This was war. I met with Logan 2 nights later, empty parking lot. He passed me a flash drive. "Everything's here," he said. "The tests, the override codes, even the emails." I looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged. "Because I remember who gave me a chance when I didn't have a degree. You didn't care about my resume, just my work." I nodded slowly. "Thanks for trusting me." "Do something with it, Marcus." That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at my ceiling, hearing Daniel's voice. "We need someone with polish." And Rick's voice. "If people like him can walk these halls?" And then I remembered my father's voice, the one that still echoes when it's quiet. "You don't need to yell to be heard, son. You just need to outlast the noise." I decided. It was time to stop hiding behind a mop. Time to reclaim what mattered, but not with rage, not with lawsuits, with proof, with purpose, and with the kind of revenge that doesn't require a single raised voice. The next morning, I walked into Helix's lobby like any other day. Same uniform, same coffee stain on the sleeve. But this time, everything felt different, because this time, I wasn't here to clean the floors. I was here to clean the rot. Talia caught me near the elevators. "You okay?" she asked. "You seem intense." I gave a small smile. "Just tired, but I'm getting close to something." She tilted her head, curious. "What kind of something?" I leaned closer. "The kind that changes everything." The first thing I did was nothing. At least, nothing visible. Because when you've been erased from your own company, the best way back in is through the cracks no one notices. I still showed up each day, emptying trash bins, wiping down glass walls covered in fingerprints from people who never said thanks. But now, I was taking notes, where files were stored, who had keycard access to what floors, when Rick left early, when Madeline's meetings didn't match the calendar log. They never noticed the janitor reading the whiteboards, or the guy in the corner memorizing badge IDs while pushing a vacuum. The flash drive Logan gave me? Gold. Contained proof of the rushed firmware, false compliance logs, even internal Slack messages with things like, "He won't know. Marcus is out of the picture." Oh, Daniel. But it wasn't enough to blow the whistle. If I wanted to stop them for good, if I wanted to reclaim Helix, I needed the one thing they never thought I had. Access. Enter Talia. She was sharp, shy, yes, but observant. So one evening, while she was eating dinner alone at her desk, I brought her a cup of tea. "Chamomile," I said. "Helps on long days." She smiled. "You're too nice." I leaned against the doorframe casually. "I need a favor," I said. Her eyes narrowed playfully. Oh, that's never good." I kept my tone low. "Can you check when the board meets next quarter? I want to send someone a gift." She raised an eyebrow. "You planning a coup?" I smiled. "Something like that." 3 days later, she handed me a folded note. "Board meets in 6 weeks. I had 6 weeks. To turn the tide, I reached out to 3 former engineers I'd personally mentored. All of them had left after I was ousted. All of them felt betrayed. But when I showed them the flash drive, when I showed them the product roadmap Daniel had butchered, they were all in. We rebuilt a clone environment in secret, launched a shell company through a trusted lawyer, rewrote the patch Helix had failed to finish, tested it, encrypted it, and timed the release perfectly. Meanwhile, Daniel kept bragging. At conferences, online interviews, social media posts with captions like, "When leadership meets vision." The irony, every time he hit publish, he was one step closer to his curtain call. Talia started noticing things. "You're different lately," she said, catching me in the stairwell one morning. I paused. "Different how?" She squinted. "You stand straighter. You look people in the eye, like you're not hiding anymore." I exhaled slowly. "Maybe I'm not." She didn't ask more. She didn't have to. 2 weeks before the board meeting, I submitted an anonymous report. It included full vulnerability analysis, timeline of leadership negligence, names, emails, attached internal approvals, sent to the board, the regulatory agency, and, just for fun, their biggest client. And then I went back to cleaning toilets. The chaos came fast. Rick stormed into the lobby one morning, shouting into his phone, "We're hemorrhaging clients. Who leaked the report?" Madeline had tears in her eyes during a meeting. Daniel went silent online. For the first time in months, no posts, no press, no staged photos with industry partners, and then a company-wide email. Helix Core Solutions will be holding a special executive town hall this Friday. Attendance mandatory. I showed up like always. Same janitor uniform, same scuffed boots. Only this time, I brought my name tag, the real one. I sat in the back. 3rd row from the exit. Head down, uniform wrinkled, name badge turned around. Everyone thought I was there to clean up afterward. That was exactly the plan. The execs filed in first, Rick in a navy suit looking paler than usual, Madeline clutching her tablet like a lifeline, then Daniel. He didn't look nervous. He looked annoyed, like someone who'd just been told his dinner reservation was delayed. He took the mic at center stage, cleared his throat. "Let's get right to it," he began. "There's been a lot of noise this week. Misinformation, leaks." I tilted my head. "Noise, huh?" He continued. "I want to assure you, Helix is secure. We're working with legal to address the defamatory materials circulating." Then he paused, looked around. "And I personally intend to find out who's responsible." That's when the head of the board walked up. Miss Langford, sharp, serious, and definitely not pleased. She interrupted him. "We appreciate your passion, Mr. Shore," she said coldly. "But before we continue, we've invited someone who might help clarify the situation." Daniel looked confused. "Who?" She gestured to the side of the room, right where I was standing. I stood up, turned my badge around. "Marcus Hale, founder, Helix Core Solutions." Gasps, literal gasps. One woman dropped her pen. Rick whispered something under his breath. "And Daniel?" His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I walked to the front. Not rushed, not smug, just steady and inevitable. When I reached the podium, I didn't even look at Daniel. I looked out at the faces of the company I helped build, the faces that never looked back at me when I mopped their floors. "Some of you may not recognize me," I began. Pause. "That's okay. I became invisible, by design." You could have heard a pin drop. I started Helix out of my garage, back when firewalls were duct tape solutions and investors laughed in our faces. I looked directly at the board. I gave this company everything. My time, my health, my name. I turned to the room. And when I was pushed out, I didn't retaliate. I didn't sue. I paused, letting it sink in. I became your janitor. Gasps again. Madeline turned bright red. Rick was motionless. Daniel took a step forward. This is absurd, he barked. You expect us to believe? I cut him off. Believe what? That I scrubbed your coffee spills while you signed off on vulnerabilities that could ruin hospitals? I reached into my coat pocket, held up the flash drive. Everything is on here. Ms. Langford stepped forward. She took the drive, spoke without looking at Daniel. We'll be reviewing this independently. Effective immediately, the board is suspending all executive privileges pending investigation. Daniel stuttered. But you can't, You don't own anything, I said calmly. You borrowed reputation and burned trust. Security approached. Rick tried to protest. Madeline started crying. And Daniel? He didn't say a word. He just walked. Head low. As for me, I walked off stage, back to the janitor's cart, picked up the mop handle, pushed it toward the exit. Not because I had to, but because I chose to leave like that. On my terms. A week later, they changed the locks. Daniel was officially removed. Rick's resignation came through in a one-line email. Madeline left quietly. No farewell party. The media caught wind. Not because I called them, but because someone always talks. They called me the disguised CEO, the janitor tycoon. Some even called it a publicity stunt. It wasn't. There were no cameras, no prepared speeches, no PR team. Just truth. Plain. Quiet. Undeniable. Talia was promoted. She came by my office. Yes, my office now. Holding a tiny plant in a coffee mug. I brought you something, she said. I smiled. Is this a peace offering for all those suspicious stares? She laughed. Maybe. Then paused. You really did all that? Just to watch? I shook my head. I did it to remember. Because when you build something from the ground up, you need to know what it feels like to lose it, and more importantly, you need to remember what it's for. Helix is quieter now, less flashy, more focused. We've rehired old team members. People with fire in their eyes and calluses on their hands. People who've been through something. I still keep the janitor uniform, pressed, folded in my office drawer. Sometimes I look at it when the suits start getting too loud again. It reminds me of who I am when no one's watching. And the mop. It's in the lobby, in a glass case. Below it, a small plaque reads, "For those who clean up quietly and still build empires." One afternoon, I was standing near the parking garage, just watching people leave. And I saw him, Daniel, standing by a silver sedan, hair shorter, face thinner. He didn't see me, but I saw something in his eyes. Something that wasn't anger or arrogance, just regret. He got in his car and drove away like just another face in the crowd. I didn't feel satisfaction or pity, just clarity. Success isn't loud. It doesn't need a stage or applause. Sometimes it just needs silence and time. I got in my own car, same truck, same rust on the fender, same hum when the engine starts, and I drove home. Back to the place I'd bought with my own two hands. Back to peace. Back to truth. Because after everything, I wasn't chasing revenge. I was reclaiming my name, my purpose, my dignity, and that was more than enough